Welcome to Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. I'm Kevin Parkerson.
And I'm Kevin Higgins. Together we bring you over 60 years in combined experience in global logistics.
In each episode, we'll dive into the latest industry trends, share practical tips, celebrate wins, and share stories from the logistics front lines, all while helping businesses optimize their logistics operations.
So welcome to Kev Talks. We're reporting from Long Beach during TPM 25. We've got our special guests from the E Dray office. We'll kind of let them do introductions and take it from there.
Yeah. All right. Paxton Bowman. I'm the Director of Destination Management for West Coast. So the office, we're a satellite office for our main office out of Charlotte. We run, probably 25 to 30% of the accounts out of this office. We're also the support team for all the contacts in the LA Long Beach Harbor. So a lot of the terminals down here and obviously the ports, we serve as kind of the conduit between our main office and the ports on the West Coast.
Excellent.
All right.
Yeah. Jimmy Patrick, head of tech here for EDray. Been with EDray about a year now. First into logistics, shipping special on the ocean side. Prior to this, it was all healthcare industry for the most part. But head of tech here, we have a software development team, integrations groups, business analytics, a little bit of systems, but really what we're doing is developing a visibility platform, right, for our customers and a lot more operational components underneath that.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, listen, I want to hear a lot more about what EDray does and how you specialize. But since this is a TPM segment, how much traffic do you get? You are 500 feet from the convention center. How much traffic, and will you be glad when this week is over?
It is a lot of work leading up. This is really our third year doing this. So this is, we haven't been doing it very long. We moved into this office about 3 years ago. So we actually did our first TPM here, I think a month after we moved in. Every year it feels like it doubles. So the traffic in here doubles, the amount of bookings in the office, the amount of customer meetings. It seems like we're throwing a larger event every year, more people coming to it. But as a whole, we're seeing a lot more variety. I think the first few years we saw a lot of shippers, but now we're seeing a lot of dray carriers come in the office, people in warehousing, all facets of the supply chain are showing up now, which is in line with our mottos. We're collaborative port logistics, and so we're trying to be that bridge, that conduit between stakeholders in the supply chain. And I think this year you're really seeing that come to fruition with the folks that are showing up to these meetings.
But Jimmy said you came from healthcare. How about you?
So I spent 17 years in the ports, ran terminals. So I spent my first about 10 years with Hanjin. TTI. Yeah. It's actually Marine Terminals Corporation back there, but it was the TTI terminal. Yeah. So
that's where I know you from.
Okay. I'm a plank owner of Pier T. So we opened that in 2002. Okay. And then West Basin Container Terminal. So about 2009, 10-ish, moved over to West Basin, was the general manager over there for a couple of years and then vice president of operations at West Basin.
Nice.
Was HJ at TTI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, HJ back in the day.
Good deal. All right.
Yeah.
KY.
I know. I just aged myself. Yeah.
David Tam, all those guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us, somebody asked me about how many times I've come to TPM, and I think this is 20. I think this is 20. So I started, the first one was 2006, I think. So this is 20 for me. But what do you guys do? Give me the elevator pitch on EDray.
Absolutely. I think we're more than a visibility platform. That's where it starts. The destination management side, which is the side I have most of my hands in the deepest, is essentially a managed service. So on top of having the visibility and all the tools that we provide, which starting from inbound and validating your inbound shipments to make sure that the information is correct, to following up on milestones, to make sure that those are correct so that when you're measuring your time in network, you're getting an accurate measurement, and you're able to use that information for combating D&D or detention and demurrage. We also have a lot of other tools within the platform, some dashboards that allow you to forecast inbound shipments. So if your distribution center wants to know what your outlook looks like for the next 14 days, you can take a look in the platform and see everything that's coming in by geo, by terminal, and really drill down to see what to expect and what capacity you have to be able to receive these shipments, and pivot if you need to. And I think that's key. I mean, shippers nowadays need to be nimble, and to be nimble, you got to have the information, you got to have the data, and it's got to be real time. We've seen a lot of disruptions in the last year and a half, from the Baltimore Bridge to ILA strike to hurricanes, and so shippers are having to constantly pivot to find either new capacity or new dray carriers in certain lanes to be able to handle shipments, especially when they get diverted. Right?
Yeah. So what are some of those things that you would tell shippers to be thinking about? Because when Kevin and I have been doing this a long time, we've been in this business a long time, and we used to have we'd have a black swan event maybe once every 2-3 years, and now we're having them all the time. So what advice would you give to shippers, to importers, exporters, in regards to planning for events that are going to happen?
I think it starts with the relationships with your stakeholders. Having a carrier that has capacity to be able to pivot is in different geos. I mean, it's good to use small carriers sometimes because you're getting better rates, or there's some flexibility there. But when you're looking at a broader network, having a larger dray carrier network allows you to pivot if you've got to move cargo from your east to west coast carriers, but also relationships with the rail lines, and moving by rail. That's a great relief valve for a lot of shippers. But also relationships at the terminals and the steamship lines, and knowing those folks and getting ahead and getting that information ahead of time. And we try to let our shippers know as far out as we know, but a lot of times the ocean carriers and terminals know well ahead, well before.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. We talk about that a lot, and relationships are key. They tend to be the kind of this single.
Talk about relationships.
Yeah, that's a very common thread.
So thanks for that.
We didn't have to prompt it.
We didn't have to.
Splitting the money after that.
Maybe just a little bit.
I think one of the interesting pieces about EDray too is the relationships that we also have with those partners, right? Too. So when we start to talk about the power of EDray and what we can provide for our customers, for our shippers, right, is that we can work with the trading partners on their behalf as well when we partner together. It's huge. Having direct from a tech angle, having direct integrations and not going through middlemen all the time, right? Getting the data straight from the source, that's key. It makes it faster. It's more accurate that way too. Right?
Yeah. Coming from the BCO side, and I know our audience as a BCO, if they heard what you said, they would absolutely 100% agree that how important it is for a service provider to have those local and regional and national, global relationships, and how important that is. That helps them manage the day-to-day operations. I can't say that enough.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Absolutely. So, Jimmy, you said you've been here about a year.
Yep.
Coming from healthcare. What attracted you to come here?
Yeah, honestly, it was the shift in industry, right? Healthcare is it's very data driven. It's very specific data driven, right? It's very high security data driven. And what I wanted to do is find a way that I felt like my skill sets from previous roles and careers could apply into this type of industry too. Something that I can see value in a day in, day out. Right? Many times in the healthcare world, you're kind of sitting back and you hear about the value. You hear about it in healthcare industry. You hear about it in hospital systems and urgent cares and things like that. But I felt like there was a more of attachment here, and this it kind of excited me. Right? Just the world of logistics in general excited me, and it was an area I didn't know a lot about, so I just wanted to know more.
Give some more examples of that, because I think you're spot on. Give some examples of exactly what you how you've experienced that, you know, in this side of the business.
Sure. I mean, again, I was just talking in a meeting earlier today. I think this is very much an industry that is craving more tech, and it's very much an industry that's just packed full of data. And the power that you have with tech and data together, right, can be massive for our customer base, for large organizations and such, right, to be more efficient in their operations. And I think to put tech on top of, like, if you have a good structured data point where all of these, like we're talking about milestones and these different connection points with our partners, whether it's steamship lines or dray carriers or customs brokers, right? Like having all that data come into one place, having it structured, honestly, the opportunities are endless of what we can do with that, right? For me, sitting with customers and shippers throughout, especially events like this, you asked the question earlier about, are we ready for this week to be over? Will we be ready?
Right.
Like, to me, I say no, let's keep doing it, right? Because for me, being new into the industry, I want to just keep understanding more of what the shippers are looking for, and then me learning how all the different partners around it, you know, play a role in that. And then our job at EDray is to bring all that together,
That's
right?
really good, Jimmy. Where you been?
We
We need more Jimmys.
I think that's a great point, because it seems like we all as an industry come together over the course of like 3 or 4 days during TPM, and we do collaborate during that time, and we do talk about it, and then it starts to wane off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have another conference where we all come together and we do the same thing, and then it starts to wane off a little bit. And one of the things that we talked about, and we've had people on the podcast before who have talked about it, is the importance of data sharing. And so from your experience and coming from healthcare into logistics, personally, I think we do a poor job of sharing data. We're getting better. We're a lot better than we were, but we've got a lot of disparate partners in here. We've got ocean carriers, we've got terminals, we've got drayage carriers, we've got customs. You know, we have other people in that depend on that data. So how important is it for us as an industry to start kind of breaking down silos and sharing data?
Yeah, I think that is a tricky one, right? And similar to healthcare, right? It's who does the data really belong to, right? And in the healthcare world, is it the patient or is it the healthcare system? I think here is it the shipper, is it the trading partner, is it the carrier, or is it the steamship line, right? Everyone has a piece of that data, and so who does all of it combined together really belong to? And I think at the end of the day, like it's not about how do we share the data. I think it's each of the individual like stakeholders in that holding themselves accountable to their piece of the data, right? Because if they all held themselves accountable to that piece of the data, at the end of the day, they all win, right? You don't have one that's like superseding another one. The shipper's not missing out on their data. Everybody's doing their part. So to me, it's not necessarily about sharing the data across each other. I think it's about using the connections that you talked about, having relationships, and everybody holding their own accountability, right, to what their data points are, for sure.
Yeah. How do you do that though? I mean, how do you foster that in the industry?
I mean, you may even be able to talk to this more about in the industry, but for me, I think you have to understand what the why is behind what your data points are, right? Like, what does a change in your data point mean, right? Again, being new to the industry, what does it mean to miss a pickup by 2 days? What are the downstream impacts of that? What is the cost of that, right? And I think if a carrier understands their impact in that, if a steamship line understands their impact of that, if a terminal really truly understands and wants to do right the right thing in that, then I think it just gets better naturally. Everybody just needs to probably do a little bit better around accountability on data metrics, and I think we'd all be in a better place for our customers, which is the shipper in this case, right?
And to me, like, it's the right data.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right data point, I should say, because I go back 25 plus years, and we would go to an ocean carrier and we would say, I want these 16 events. Okay, I'll give you those. Why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what are you doing with them afterwards?
Just a nicety
Why?
or is it a necessity?
Yeah,
right?
it's so.
I just want to.
Yeah, we have this thing that we call what, so what. So what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to do with it? Right. So I don't need 16. What I'm really interested in is it late, and when did it deliver?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I really don't need it. So I think the importance of those data points,
mm-hmm.
holding people accountable, holding ourselves accountable to the data points, is as important as the data itself, right? Because we can ask for a lot, but we don't need a lot.
Yeah. Accurate and timely. That's what we ask for.
Yeah.
It doesn't do me any good if it's 4 days late and that thing's already returned to the terminal.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. Good point. No.
Let's get to a hot topic right now. We're not going to talk about tariffs. Let's talk about AI.
AI?
Everything that you just said in the last 10 minutes, where do you see AI playing a role in that? How is it today in EDray? And where do you see it playing a role?
Sure.
Can
Okay.
you see it playing a role?
I'm going to ask that we flip the question, right? I'd like Pax from an operations and business perspective, like how do you feel AI could impact industry and how EDray could use it? Because I have tech thoughts behind it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, from an operational standpoint, we're already using it. I mean, even in our communications, right? Just cleaning stuff up and looking at. So it helps us sometimes understand, how EDI is set up in coding. So if we have an issue and we submit a ticket, right, to have it resolved. It's got to go through its paces. There's a lot of opportunity within AI right now to better understand solutions to problems that we might not have been able to get the answer just Googling it before. So for us, we use AI a lot. Like, what does this code say for EDI 204, right? We need to know where this is going to sit in the JSON. And so that's how we're using it on our side to try to solve problems for ourselves before we kick it up to tech.
Yeah.
Once we have no answer, we're like, okay, we can't solve this, then we'll push it on. But I think you guys are looking at AI much different.
Much different. Yeah. I think there's three. In my seat, I look at AI used in three different ways, right? We use it in a tech angle. We can use it to help us code. We can use it to help us do data or code quality, do code checks. We can look at it from an operational standpoint, as a business. How can we use AI or large language models, right, as two separate pieces? But how do we use those to benefit us operationally? How do we work better from it? And then I think there's opportunities for customer/shipper, right? Whether that's within our platform or not. I think that there's ways that you can tack an AI agent into platform and it could, ask it questions as a shipper, even as a carrier, as different stakeholders within our platform. You just ask questions and it pull data back. Having that core structured data is key. It's got to be structured. It's got to be very organized in order for AI to work well. But I think with those things in place, 100% it could play a massive factor in speed of answer, maybe even doing a little bit of predictive analytics, that type of stuff. I mean, that's real hot right now. I think you just have to be careful with the AI question because a lot of people they're just checking the box. We have AI or we use AI. I think it's how you use it that's important. So if you're not using it for the right things, like you just spend some money for some cool letters, right, to tack onto your brochure. But
right. Are you, Jimmy, having shipper BCOs ask you about your AI capability or integration?
Yep. Yep, 100% they do. And again, I think that's because everyone is doing it. It's becoming a check the box item. Like you almost have to have it, right? So again, we're using it in my three different phases, right? We're using it more on the tech angle right now. We're helping it make us more efficient, build cleaner, have less code errors, those type of things. So things are just running more optimal. And I think the next step needs to be, since we run so much as the managed side is what Paxton was talking about earlier, like I want to help our teams use it from an operational standpoint so that we can continue to provide that value to our customer, being the shipper. And then at the next step, I think that's when you put it into platform and you let them use it on their own, almost like self-service in that aspect.
Yeah. So can I flip that question around and ask you guys, where are you guys seeing AI applied? And you're talking to a lot of stakeholders in the industry. What's one of the coolest applications you've seen today?
For me, it is ease of data ingestion. So it's taking something that has been historically manual and people who don't have the capability or the capacity to go, traditional EDI or API, things like that, and finding ways to ingest that data and to understand and read sentiment in data that's coming in, maybe in email and other ways. Understanding that sentiment and say, okay, well, this should be, this is an ASN, but it's really in email. So understanding what's going on in those emails and using that for data ingestion and but also speeding up processes. You know, hey, I've got an agent that will take an email from a customer who says, I need a load move from here to there, but I need to know the rate first. Okay, well, here's your rate because I've gone out and I've read the database and telling you what that is, and having those conversational agents that are actually speeding up the work, not replacing people, but speeding up the work in order to get answers back to customers or truck drivers faster. So, but I think the data ingestion for me is the biggest one that I'm seeing people really want to improve processes.
Yeah. In my consulting business, clients typically ask for some type of predictive analytics and AI's role in that to tell them what should I be looking for, what historically has happened, and help scenario plan shipments of cargo.
Yeah.
And that's the number one. In my business, my clients are asking for what capabilities exist out there that can help me, and how is AI helping that solution.
Yeah. I think it's imagination.
Data. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just imagination, right?
Assuming that AI can do what I just said.
Yeah.
You mentioned my career, it was manual.
Yeah.
It was me turning around to a data scientist or a team of data scientists to help me figure that out. Where today, now it's press a button in some cases, or at least that's the technology that BCOs and clients are looking for, is to stay ahead of the game and have that button to push that helps them do all of that it used to take us a week to do in a team of 5 people.
Yeah.
Now it does not.
And some insights you might not have thought about.
100%. You can scenario plan now instead of, now you can do 5 scenarios in 5 minutes versus 1 scenario in a week.
One of I think the interesting parts when you talk about scenarios too, right? And you talk about how it can read sentiment. I think the neat thing about AI and large language models is while it can read sentiment, it acts without emotion, right? Like, sure, you can train it to have this feeling of emotion, but it acts without emotion. So you know what it's returning to you as the predictive analytics or the suggestive opportunities that it provides is strictly based off of data. It goes back to why your data has to be structured, why your data has to be very organized,
100%.
why it needs to be with good quality, right? Because without, it's going to provide you something based off of what it sees. So as long as you're safe with your data, the quality's got to be strong, right? Because if the quality's not strong, what it predicts back to you or what suggestions it gives back to you are going to be dangerous. But it could be very powerful if you have those things in place. 100%.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. And I there's so much possibility for me being, I'm the oldest guy in this room, and but it's opened up my mind to possibilities as far as I can do this faster and I can do this smarter if I just know how to tell it. If I'll just sit down and say, hey, I need to do this, I can get formulas out the wazoo, and I can create stuff that would have taken me months and months to write a formula and create a spreadsheet and everything else like that. I can do it all in minutes now. So, but it's allowed me to kind of rethink and to be able to say, hey, what is the art of the possible, right? Yeah. So I put this in and I come up with a lot of stuff. So, it's challenging me as well to continue my line of thinking and to be a little bit provocative and doing some things.
So AI, in some ways, is in a category or has been futuristic. What do you see in the next 5 to 10 years as futuristic in your side of the business? What would you like to see?
I think we're heading towards some silos crashing. I think the industry's traditionally been siloed. Everyone wants to keep there and hold that information because that information's power, right? You see it on the steamship line side, you see it on the terminal side. It starts to open up a little bit after the terminals, but those were black holes for years, and getting information out of those stakeholders was difficult. But now that there's new ways to share information, not just the EDI, API, and people are able to be more creative and come up with solutions that are quicker and more accurate and easier to set up. I mean, integrations with EDI it's not the easiest thing to do. I think we all know. So as it gets faster, as it gets more on the nose, with the information that's being shared, I think you're going to see these silos really start to fall. And the ones that do it better are going to rise to the top. You asked earlier about, who's going to win here.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are solving that and making it easier to integrate and share that information, but also having the security protocols to protect the information as well.
Right.
Yeah, the only piece I would tack onto that again is, I talked a little bit about the accountability piece earlier, right? And data quality. I think that technology like AI and any type of language model, right? Tech language model, I think is going to force the stakeholders to have better quality data, right? And then when you put these integrations in place, the transfer of that data is going to become faster and easier, right? And then if you start tacking on these different new technologies as they continue to grow, these AI and these GPT technologies, right? You tack those on to that transfer data. Now you've got better quality data transferring faster to where at some point, like, you won't have so much manual, right? Like that's really what, I don't remember who mentioned it earlier, but most of what AI today is put in place for is repetition, right? It's repetitive things that we're doing over and over and over again, and we don't want to do it. So now we've trained a computer to do that, and then now we put data behind it. So it's just going to be stronger and faster, right? And I think to some degree it'll remove the emotion in some of these siloed pieces as well, right? And it's data talking to data, and I think it'll just be even more important that it's good quality, right? And it holds everybody accountable at that point. So to me, that's where it's going to go. You're going to see a lot of these black holes are no longer going to be black holes. The data will be there to fill that space, and it's going to have to be good quality.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So Paxton, I'm going to go back to when I heard you say silos, crashing of silos.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great kind of segue into talk a little bit about the partnership, the collaborative partnership of ACS, Road One, EDray, and from a BCO customer client perspective, maybe not necessarily how that came about, but the value that provides to a BCO and why a BCO would want to engage with you versus somebody else because of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as collaborative meetings and collaborative customers, we share a lot of customers with Allport Cargo Services. I mean, they're kind of a funnel for us, for a lot of our clients. They're on the origin side. I mean, they do a lot more, consolidation and whatnot. But as far as an origin provider, they kind of stand on their own in the industry. And they've taught us a lot about the business. What makes it nice working with them is that we have a very clear pathway of data. We're set up with ASNs coming in through EDI 856s. So all of our clients that we share, it's seamless. And we're really good at doing integrations now, so it's quick. And it's not just them, I mean, other partners as well, but they helped us to figure out that model and speed it up and perfect it and streamline it. On the flip side of that, we've got Road One that does, one of the largest dray carriers in the country. And we share a lot of clients as well. And it makes it easier when we go back to those relationships. We know the folks, we know what they're capable of. And so when we have an issue and we reach out, we have a question or there's a problem that we need to solve, that relationship helps to speed up that solution. So we're not spending a half a day on the phone trying to get to the right person to solve a problem. Yeah. But beyond that, both are very capable. And again, us being we're I don't say the rookies in the room, but we're the newest of the bunch. Yeah. We learn a lot through not just those relationships, but their processes and feedback to us, because we get a lot of feedback from both parties.
Yeah. That's awesome. Anything else to add on that, Jimmy?
No, I nailed that one.
Yeah. All right. So the most important question of the day: what's it like to work with for VK?
All right. I mean, it's a good analogy.
He does all the editing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No.
And whatever you say, if you want to edit out, I'll do that.
So,
you ever seen a robo hamster? Hamsters are just like. That's what it's like to work with Reed Kid. No, I like that.
Yeah. Look, when when I first flew out to Charlotte to meet Reed when I was interviewing for this job, we had a lot of talks about just the industry and initiatives within the industry. And one of the initiatives that I had tried for years to get off the ground was flow stacks, free flow.
Yeah.
And we have a nice long conversation over dinner about flow stacks and economizing flow stacks because no one's been able to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier to bring in, 300 containers for a large BCO and flow them to their DC. But when you start talking about 50 shippers in that same pile, and to give small shippers that equity, right, that large BCO is getting, and his insights on how to do that and how to go about doing flow stacks to give the benefits to not just the big shippers, but the small shippers, really is what won me over. And he put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
That's how I know Reed, but it's a whole nother episode of those stories we won't get into.
The only piece I would really add there is very similar. I had coffee with Reed, right? It was the first time I met him. Obviously, first time talking to someone in this industry about a career opportunity, right? So for me, hearing it from him, who seemed like just to have overflowing amounts of information and energy and passion about this industry, that was another reason why it drew me in. First and foremost, I was like, man, I want to be a part of something like this because this just sounds exciting.
Yes.
Now that I've been in it and working more and more with Reed, and I get to sit down with some of these stakeholders.
It's not exciting.
It definitely has its excitements for
Yeah.
sure. But I still just get drawn at how much knowledge Reed has about all aspects of this industry, right? Which I think is what just makes us as a tech company, as a managed company, as whatever you want to see us as in that pillar, right? It just makes us even stronger to have that leading the organization. Frankly, the conversations we get to have and the information I get, me personally, I get to get out of Reed is phenomenal.
That's great.
I just want to apply tech to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Great answers.
Okay, second most important question. So we're in Long Beach. Go-to place for lunch. Where?
I did King's today.
Okay.
What's the full name of it?
Keith's Fish House?
Yeah, King's Fish House.
Up on time.
I had reservations there the other night, then I had to cancel.
Wow.
That's a whole other story.
Missed
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Lobster roll was
Lobster roll.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Paxton.
I'm going to say the Ordinaire down here in the Promenade, especially around Christmas time. Yeah, if you haven't been there, they do it. Everything in that place is it's like Elf. Walking in there, but
Spaghetti
the
and
food speaks for
syrup?
itself. Yeah, spaghetti and syrup. No, everything in that place is wrapped, decorated. Little elves running around. It's great. Yeah, very festive. But beyond that, their food's phenomenal. If you like beet salad, they got the best over there. Yeah.
I've not been there. I've been to Kingfish, but I've not been.
I've heard of it. I just never been.
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody said 555.
I mean, 555 is a staple in Long
It's a
Beach.
staple.
The triple nickel.
Yeah.
Triple
Yeah.
nickel. One of the best bars in town. I'll give them that.
Yeah. That's good stuff. All right.
Well, guys, this has been really good. Thanks for your
Thank you.
insight. Thanks for
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin and Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Pleasure, you guys.
Yeah.
Nice
Thanks for the
Nice
use
meeting
of the office and all. So,
Yeah.
awesome. Appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Kev Talks, Real World Global Logistics. If today's discussion inspired you, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate, and share our podcast.
Remember, every great journey in logistics starts with a single step forward. Let's continue working together to transform the industry.